What's up? Oh, it's you, Dynamo. How are you? What's going down? Well, finished in air quotes. AI still don't pressure you as much as I would like them to. I just have to more closely audit the build orders of stuff like the Zerg and the... it's really the Zerg. The Zerg have been giving me the most problems. But that's alright. Just meant that they were a tougher nut to crack, not that it was impossible. There's definitely some underlying issues with the engine. For example, one thing that I've noticed recently is that the AI basically... they treat certain requests as if they've been satisfied, even though they obviously haven't. This is mostly apparent with expansions. But something does happen at the top end of when they have too many requests that are like the same priority or something. Something does happen, and it's really not great. So, it would be nice to be able to fix that at some point. I'm not sure what it will take for that, but it most certainly will, yes. Exactly. So, I think at this point, we can get rid of that, because we know that doesn't really help. But what we can do is default min 1. They won't request units before this point in the build. The other thing is I might want to even increase this, though, like... so that they try to expand a bit earlier. But I do need to then go and change the expansion request. Okay. So basically what I have to do is, for Zerg, I have to more carefully balance their worker count, their town thread requests for their main base, their expansion requests, their upgrades, and their attacks. It's not really that difficult to do, but it was really dumb to reach that conclusion. And it doesn't really help that the overall construction of the AI had to be changed drastically to support stuff like this. Like, just the way that I request certain things priority-wise had to be overhauled. Okay. That should be fine. I don't know why that suddenly jumped up. That's a little off. At least this shouldn't be too difficult to implement, which is nice. I don't know why Notepad does this, where it moves the margin to the left if there's no 4-digit line on screen. It's very jarring when it does appear. Hey, what's up, Chris? I'm Vanilla Zerg 1, Among the Ruins. I've been working on the map for the last week or so. It's been in development for a long time, but... should be out pretty soon. Just going to be doing some last tests with some of the AI here. And we'll at least have this to work with. Odds are I have to stabilize some other aspects of the game, though, like continue to modify. Yeah, I guess I can import that. But I definitely need to continue to oh, wow, I went in the wrong folder. Wonder how many times that's happened. Oh, well, we're kind of testing Cordovan here. That's okay, though. We'll test it one more time anyway, why not? So Cordovan's the normally the player 1, but you'll be able to pick a different one if you want. If you want to play as Redwood, you can now. So this is probably the most... I would expect that Cordovan's actually the most performant out of any of the AI. Obviously right now there's no other AI active because I was just testing him. But I think because of the fact that I don't know why he has Zergling requests. That shouldn't be happening considering default min is 0. Well, anyway, outside of the random Zergling requests that slow him down a little bit here, one of the things that I think about Cordovan is it gave me the opportunity to really try to envision a build order the way that a human would do it. Like, I'm going to get this at a certain priority or whatever, or a certain supply count. I think I'll just change the request over for his expansion, though. Normally he would have the drones necessary to expand, but we can do resources. So that he doesn't float too much, because right now it's supposed to be getting him. He's supposed to have his expansion up like maybe half a minute ago. He was working a little bit better before, but it's okay. There we go. It's decided. It's time now. I want to draw your attention to the fact though that that extractor started, right? So if we go to his town thread real quick in the background, you'll note that the request is told to wait until he has 2 hatcheries. He built the extractor before he built the hatchery. So that's an example of the AI considering the hatchery request built, even though it doesn't even yet exist. So that's one of those things that I was talking about earlier, where the AI has this weird tendency to consider, certain things as done before they're done. Sometimes they never build the expansion. I mean, I haven't observed that behavior with this AI specifically, but sometimes they don't do that at all. So that's a problem. Now here they've got a creep colony request, right? Yeah, for 2 creep colonies. But despite the fact that they have 500 minerals. They refuse to build it. I think they're actually trying to build it, and I just can't see it. Drones stop each other from actually building here. Maybe they just gave up now, or maybe they never were able to do it before. I don't know. And then there's another issue of this, that this particular AI does, because of this setup, I think. You get shit like this, where the drones are being assigned to the main town, but mining from here. And obviously returning to here as well, so even though it says like there's 8 workers assigned to this town, like 2 or 3 of them are down here, so there's really not 8 workers. I don't know why that happens. Anyway, they're still stuck on their fucking creep colony that they're not building. So that's great. I wonder how long it'll take them to do that. Jesus Christ. So I didn't even change anything, so this is just luck of the draw. Like, I guarantee you, we restart here, we're gonna get a different outcome.
Greetings.
Yeah, so they just built it in a different location now, but they actually did build it. They didn't take, 8 minutes or something to build it. This is the shit that I don't understand. There's not really any justification for it. I think it just comes down to them failing over and over again to build it because they see drones as pathing blockers for buildings for some psychotic reason. Another reason why Zerg AI is notoriously frustrating to deal with. Precisely because of that fact. Precisely because of the fact that they fail to properly build their shit. They fail against larvae, they fail against eggs, and they fail against drones that are starting to build. They might fail against drones anyway, I don't know. But specifically, if the drone starts to build and there's multiple drones trying to do the same thing, it will fail 100% of the time because they keep sending 2 drones to satisfy the same request, which is a built-in AI function that you have no control over. You can't tell them to only build a certain amount, for example. So, like, only build with a certain amount of workers. Which, in all actuality, you definitely should be able to do. You should be able to define something like that. Like, don't try to satisfy this. I mean, it shouldn't be something that happens anyway. The AI should never try to satisfy the same exact building request with more than 1 worker. It doesn't matter if they're what their race actually is. So because they flubbed their colony placement, this is now, there's 3 sunkens here when this one's supposed to be a spore and this one's supposed to be a sunken. Another thing that we can't really control, we can't tell the AI to only morph specific structures into specific other structures, which is going to be a feature that it'll help eliminate a lot of variance. For example, there was an earlier time where they built this hatchery, this 3rd hatchery in their main, faster in one run, so they didn't get their lair request, or they didn't satisfy their lair request until after this one was built, and they used this one to satisfy it, which was great. Exactly what you would want. But, yeah, that drone thing is kind of a problem, but it's not that big of a deal for right this second, I don't think. And again, that AI is mostly was an excuse for me to try to write a better AI in the first place. So now we can take our observations for that. And we're going to have Redwood do a 1v1 against Scarlet here. What do you mean? Of course I have a human, or I have an opponent. Oh, I set it to human. Not that there's much of a difference. They all get converted anyway.
Greetings,
I am you. Again, they build like 4 or 6 Zerglings for no reason when they really need drones in the early game. They might be building it because they have a train block, but I have a feeling it's the same exact thing that was there in... yeah, they have a train block that's telling them to do that. It's not quite the same thing as Cordovan, which was just doing it of its own volition. So you can see they definitely have the request there, but they're waiting for the money. So the drone is going to be stuck for a while because they keep spending it on other shit. It should be going pretty soon. There it is. I get double spore here. Hi. Bye. Surprisingly enough, they actually got their one of their sunkens up. I wanted to get the timing down so that they would have both sunkens down there, which they were not quite able to do, it looks like. Well, their timing was all sorts of off because they kept training shit, so why don't we just disable the train blocks since they didn't help us out anyway. No, it's wrong one. Good. How are you, Ultralisks? Oh, we actually don't even multi-run that. Surely we must. Oh, it's in here for some reason. Okay. Now then, I wanted to go into their resources, or their expansion request, rather. And we're going to add... the resource check. Oh, it's ore 300. We're going to throw that in. See if that helps us at all. The combination of removing the train block and improving the check for the expansion should be a good, fine way to do that. And I think I can improve efficiency a little bit by putting the extractor to there you go. That should help their build order a little bit so that they don't pivot to trying to put the gas up at the same time that they're morphing that and a drone, so they don't have any money. See, they still build Zerglings. So it's not like it didn't fix anything. There's nothing that requests Zerglings in by default. So there's some underlying algorithm or hard code that's telling the Zerg AI, hey, you need Zerglings. I don't have default min on, so it wouldn't be that. It wouldn't be saying, hey, we need a certain amount of units in our defensive regions. That doesn't happen until after they've expanded. That's when I call default min 1 to tell them to do that. Where then they try to cover all of their regions with a couple of units, which is obviously good for defense. But so like here they have it. Now there's the attack as well, because that fires when they you can observe the epic drone behavior. Now maybe, just maybe, this will be fast enough that they'll be able to get their sunkens up. Of course, their natural should also die, so yeah, this is actually worse than the last time. But I don't think it's for any particular reason. Oh, they somehow managed to... Oh. A couple of the units went to my base, that's why. They would have been toast otherwise, I think. So here's the real test, is whether or not they rebuild in a timely manner. I'm already going to say no, they failed that test. And they're already expanding to some other place. Well, again, this is the hanging drone. Despite all the money I have, I'm going to sit here and say I don't have enough money to build, a hatchery. I'm going to spend all of it at once for some reason on other shit, including a hatchery in my main. Even though I have a town here that requests a hatchery at the same priority. Pretty epic. And now I'm just going to sit here and not contribute to mining, even though I could have returned probably enough minerals myself as a single drone to pay for that hatchery in the amount of time. Also, I'm going to fuck up my crib colonies. Epic. What's up, Vic? Still nothing. Is he going to move now? A different worker has been assigned to the task. Oh no, that's the same worker. I don't know what the other line is. An overlord, maybe? Oh no, they just doubled up on this expansion. Again. I love it when they do that.
The hive cluster is under attack.
Hi. That's bullying. Yeah, things are going well. I'm trying to fix this dumbass AI, but... They seem okay. Once again, though, you can notice that their attack is busted. So it must be something in their weight attack thread. So if they have 9 or less drones, or they have 0 production structures... Oh, maybe it's because they have... No, they've got plenty of money. Because, like... Weight attack would loop forever in this particular instance. So I don't really know what's up with that. But if we go down to their... Maybe I just call something inaccurately here. Target Confed, target Man, target Scarlet. Like, it must have been some unique error I made in the attack thread itself. That's not immediately obvious. No Aberrant for Overlord. Maybe I'll add more Aberrants later, though. Aberrant for Overlord would be like a hyper... control-oriented thing. It would have a really wide radius, and it would have some serious benefits for allies. But if I did decide to make something like that. Honestly, it seems to happen after the first attack. I never see them attack after that. So, is there something really dumb over here? Nothing immediately dumb about this. Then we call target Confed, which is a random chance to go to Sienna, a 1 in 3 chance to go to Sienna, and a 2 in 3 chance to go to Scarlet. For Sienna, we have... I don't know what location 40 is. I assume it's the main point there. Well, I would want it to be more on the front lines, I think. Maybe the Overlord Aberrant would spread creep below it and spawn larva below it as like a passive behavior. Could be like a reinforcement troop or something. Or you could, I don't know. It would probably also have like 20 or like 12 size, 12 unit transport size instead of 8. Something like that. Yeah, aberrant drone. It's quite the prank. Well, let's see if this attack ever fails. I've never seen an attack that starts at a certain point and then never progresses after it. But it doesn't look like it's ever going to change. Hi. They have a lot of units. They're certainly not attacking with any of them. I am only a defensive player. I don't know how to attack. Somehow I still have no money. What the fuck? Right. Aberrants are going to be pretty insane, I think. Wow. Check out all the stuff that's up. What the fuck? Yeah, I don't know, man. I think the AI's not being able to know what's been satisfied and what isn't is really fucking this guy as far as him trying to expand. I guess I'll just have to do a bunch of print commands here. Figure out what's going on. This is a decent mix. Nice ambience.
Greetings.
Satan has come down in great wrath in the city of brotherly love. Knowing his time is short.
The hive cluster is under attack.
Alright, so they're actually doing their next attack. So, it's the same attack as the second one. This time it succeeded. Maybe it's in general fine. But why would it freeze like that? What is it after the first attack? It's just wait 30 seconds. I feel like it's definitely been that long since I'm speeding up, right? So after the... What the fuck? Why does it never progress past that point, though? I've never seen something like that. So it progresses to target confed. And then never goes away? Even though attack clears right here? What? So there must be some other... What else would block it, though? Like, it's not even getting to the point where it's calling wait attack. It ends here, right? And then it just stops entirely for some reason. But there's nothing that should just kick it out. It's just that the attack never commences or never finishes. It does attack. He attacks successfully. Hi. I would like to assist you. Okay, bye. Aha. Okay, bye. Like, look at all the units he got. He got a lot of units. Yeah, so he just hangs up on his last attack for some reason. Annihilated. Hello. Yeah, so he just doesn't attack. Why? Why doesn't he attack? I don't understand. Okay, they called wait attack in Target Scarlet, right? So Target Scarlet, call wait attack. None of... Oh! I know why. Mongo. No. The Basilisk just didn't do that much damage. I recently reduced its weapon upgrade bonus. I'll have to play it against Bio and see if it's as bad as that made it look like. But I think he had 2 Basilisks and each one was targeting a different medic. So of course at that point it's gonna take a long time. Okay, we found the issue anyway. This is it's just old triggers basically. It's because I had player 6 instead of player 2. I missed that one. Probably wasn't in the... Okay, now we know what's happened. Fixed. Didn't have anything to do with that, so we can find all the prints. Comment them all out. I'll delete them later when I feel like it. And I think that should be good. Let's go ahead and enable. Okay. Gonna do a test here. Going to watch the 3 AIs fight against everybody else, see how they do. Oh, it would be helpful if I had vision, huh? I was just looking at a black screen. Right. Oh. 2, 3. I'll have to remake those the triggers for those anyway, because I have to at some point I've got to make it so that it works in multiplayer. Alright, boys. Check us out, man. Alright, hold on. Ah! Look at that man's fucking face. Alright, here we go.
Kill yourself.
You. Good enough. Yes, we will actually see flying everything. It's pretty nuts. Alright, so Omega and Delta squadrons are setting up their infrastructure, as you can see. You build that depot. It has his first strike, of course. Flying infested turns, yes. Exactly. I don't really think there's a significant issue, per se, with just the command center. It's not, like, uniquely offensive to me. However, what I will say, for one, it actually looks bugged when you're looking at the building animation for it. Like, you can notice the shadows flicker and stuff, but not in a uniform way. So the fact that made it to release is pretty disastrous. At some point, DF said he was going to clean that up, which will be nice. Same way he did for the Academy. My problem in general is the fact that, aside from, like, the bunker and the missile turret, and sort of like the starport, I guess, nothing actually looks like what it is. Like, why is the armory just this? What is this? The armory looks like something out of Half-Life 2. Those, like, nonsensical metal things just sticking out of everywhere. The armory doesn't make any sense to me as an actual armory. You know what I mean? And why does it spin to upgrade? Like, I don't understand that at all. So, like, the function of things doesn't make any sense, right? And I think, like, the factory also doesn't really make any sense. A lot of the almost built frames in general make you think that shit's just, like, the I'm about to be done building frame like this is just like random shit scrap cobbled together, so it doesn't really give you any insight into what the purpose of the structure is even there. So you can't even see, like, oh, there's a vehicle assembly bay inside this or something. You have to entirely use your imagination. So yeah, I think the purpose of all of these things doesn't make any sense. Like, of course, the Academy is the immortal example. I was ranting about that some time ago, last week, about how the Academy is just a garbage structure. I hate everything about it. I hate its almost built frame being dumb. I hate the fact that the whole thing looks like it doesn't even apply the same perspective. Before DF made a transitionary frame for the almost like the working animation, it looked really, really bad. It still looks dumb, I think. The whole thing is dumb. Just get rid of it. Like, I redesigned it from the ground up. It's so stupid. It's like shit like that. It's like the bunker, okay, I can imagine people shooting guns from there, right? And I think the bunker is like this because it was one of the few structures they actually had to have in a cutscene. If you remember in Brood War, they actually had the bunker in the cutscene. And the bunker was the only thing that looked even remotely close to an actual functional structure, along with, I guess, the missile turret. Although that goes away if you realize that there's supposedly a man spinning inside the missile turret. Okay, buddy. Why? Why is there a man spinning inside it? Why does it need a man? So, that was great. But yeah, the you know, the starport and stuff, like, okay, whatever. It sort of looks like there's a launch pad, a runway over here on the left, and then there's like this landing bay, which you can imagine descends inside the facility to be repaired or something. Stuff like that, I can imagine in theory, but I don't know what the fuck the barracks does. I don't know what the fuck the engineering bay does. Like, I just look at these structures and I don't get any purpose from them just looking at them. Whereas the units, at the very least, look functional, right? The units look like they do a job and have a certain role. Like the Vulture's obviously a dude on a bike. A Marine is just a dude. Tank is a tank. Like, this makes sense. But, like, the machine shop, no idea why it looks like that. Like, I don't know why any of this stuff looks like any of it, right? So it's stuff like that that I think is really ought to be improved somehow. Some way, shape, or form. Right, yeah, the barracks looks completely unplaceable as a structure. Like, no idea what it's meant to be. So I think the Terran's strong suits, I guess the refinery looks like a refinery as well. I will concede that. It does look like, you know, you have the workers' entrance down here in the bottom left. You have the gas coming out of the top. You got all these pipes. It looks like it's actually refining something and handling potentially, you know, dangerous materials. The missile turret in the bunker, the refinery, those are probably the strongest buildings the Terrans have. The starport being another one that could contend for an actual purpose. Meanwhile, I guess pylons and photon cannons, and to a lesser extent shield batteries, sort of look like there's something for the Protoss, right? And the Nexus is like this giant pyramid or whatever. The gateway seems to have this crystal that like ports people in. Okay, I can buy all that shit. That's an epic shield battery placement AI. That's exactly where I wanted you to put it. But why is the cybernetics core just a series of orbs? And why is the forge just this collection of pillars? And these things, like, why any of that? Citadel of Adun is equally as silly. You know, it's just shit that doesn't make any sense. You can see the first Sienna attack did a number on Cordovan. Better get some fucking Zerglings, boy. Oh, he's gonna get double teamed. Bye. That drone is stuck trying to pick an expansion. I'll see ya. I think the Zerg always get an inherent pass, just because their structures are so, like, they're meant to be like giant organisms, right? And I feel like they look like that. They look like they should in that sense. I never really felt offended by, like, I guess the Hydra stand doesn't make any sense to me. It looks more like an Overlord landed and then had a worm for a mouth. And then whatever the fuck this thing is, like a peacock frill or something. I don't know. Notably, all of these structures have these larval ends to them. Like the evolution chamber doesn't, the spawning pool doesn't, I guess. But the Hydra den actually has like this place for larvae to come out, and over here as well. Because they used to spawn larvae in the beta. This is great, by the way. This is exactly what I was hoping for. Yep. AI tanks, by the way. That's great. So yeah, I think the Zerg always tend to just be they look fine to me. Like, I don't really think that there's anything like, there's some structures that I would probably have changed the designs for so that they look less dumb. But I don't think it's necessarily dreadful. Dude, the Protoss are getting their ass handed to them. I definitely need to streamline them a little bit, improve them over time. But they also, the Protoss have the strongest late game. Them falling over in the early game, like, I would like them to be a little bit more stable. But if they get to the late game, they have access to tier 3 upgrades. Nobody else does. They have access to Reavers, Carriers, Scouts. Like, their tech is nuts. They go crazy. Also, I don't know why that Zealot ran away to get his shields recharged. Again, AI. Classic AI move. See ya. Right, yeah. Spawning pool as a name doesn't make any sense. It is a pool, but it doesn't spawn anything. So yeah, I agree. AI does not like to borrow Vorvelings for some reason. So yeah. Like, when I realized when I asked DF to design the medbay, now Dynamo, I don't think you've seen this, but I actually designed the medbay for a specific purpose. Like, I came up with the design for it, and I gave DF a bunch of instructions for it, and stuff like that. So it has like this antenna dish, the satellite dish, right? That's meant to receive orders, or receive download data plans or whatever, any telemetry required for medical stuff, right? And the overall, the perspective is pretty much identical. There's no difference in perspective. The lighting does need to be adjusted. He said that as much himself. I probably should also adjust the selection circle to be further down. That's on me though. That's not on him. But like, I designed that specifically because I wanted a structure that actually served a purpose. You have that logo on it, the Asclepius logo, to indicate that it's like a medical structure. You have the classic like chromatic white, off blue white type color scheme to show that it's also medical oriented. And in this case, it happens to be blue, right? So red rather. The team color happens to be red, so it looks nicer in that sense. When Sienna builds some, you'll see them in brown. But I explicitly designed it, and in my design, I made sure that it made sense to have a structure. Like, it has this sloped roof, for example, which is sort of like a rain guard in a sense, but it actually serves a purpose. It has the door in there, these stability stands on the right, stuff like that. So, yeah, DF made it himself. He modeled it and animated it, which is just lights, I guess. So it's not the classic animation, but the same way you would think. But yeah, he made it, and I came up with the concept for it, and he made it. So. Oh, yeah, it's a great time to build that depot right now. Now, this drone is still stuck here trying to expand, probably over there. They did set this up, though. Sienna still hasn't expanded, I've noticed. What the fuck is wrong with them? I thought I fixed that earlier. I guess edge case has transpired. Yeah. He's I think he's happy with it for now. He thinks that it's, it's fine. Is that a... Why did they double spire? I think one of them player needed it or something. Hi. Bullied. So in this case, there's a different tech opener for the Ultramarines. These Protoss go either for Reavers or they go for Scouts into Carriers. And they don't really pivot to one or the other either, so it's a randomizer right now, but ideally they would adapt to whoever's attacking them in the early game or something. Like, if it's Zerg, Reavers are probably a good bet. If it's Terran, like, that's doing the most damage to them, then they would benefit more from the air approach. Suiciding Zerglings. Sienna is really a man mode here, but I don't know why he's not expanding. Like, if he's going to run out and crash hard when he's not able to build as many tanks. And there's no expansions for him to take. He's got to clear out Redwood. He can take this, I guess. But Ultramarine will be on that soon. I actually, since Ultramarine stabilized, I kind of back him to win this at this point. He's got the Reavers. Oh, DF did this redesign for the robotics facility, which I thought was neat. Where he redid the work animation. I think that looks really good. Yeah, it should rely on scouting. Well, it could rely on scouting information, but you have to remember Ultramarine is backed in against a wall here, and he wants to. I think he wants to change his shit more based on, like, what is going to happen as far as, like. Oh man, they're getting set up here. They might be here for a while. Yeah, so I think in this case Ultramarine would prefer to respond to whoever's attacking him most, and that's a little bit different than scouting. Obviously, it's sort of like reacting to aggression. Yeah, I think Sienna's already started to fall down here in terms of number of units. Oh no! Hi. Bye. 1 HP! Yeah, with heroes it'll be even more different, I think. Very interesting. Annihilated. Oh yeah, I just have 3 spires, even though I mostly... Oh wow! Player need, by the way. Meanwhile, hi, how are you? Oh yeah, this is a great spot to park all your tanks. Oh boy. Poking the beehive over here. Yeah, there's so many things that could happen for... Oh, hi. So many things that could happen in this map when the heroes get thrown in. Well, I just remembered that Cordovan's actually broken as far as his attacks are concerned, but he expands and he defends, so he looks a bit more active than he actually is. I'll have to fix that at some point. Queen. Cordovan loves queens, just so you guys know. This is a Redwood queen, but Cordovan loves them. So... yeah, I think I'm going to quickly unfuck him, and we'll do another test. How are you, Head High? You really despise the rocks near player 1. Maybe you should try playing as player 2 then. I mean, they have the same, pretty much the same build space. I guess he can stretch out down here, but Zaz likes to take this natural. This is Zaz's natural. Don't be fooled. In fact, I was thinking actually of pulling this apart a little bit and doing something like, oh yeah, I forgot I have to piecemeal everything. I'm doing a small ramp over here. That actually works fine. Perfect. Thumbs up. So that strengthens that anyway. Sienna should help his ally. Yeah, well, the thing is, like, they all have help if trouble in their AI scripts, but they just don't. Like, it doesn't seem to request very much, you know what I mean? So apparently I don't need to put weights in here because Nave fixed that for area towns. This will be a good way to test that as well. I don't know if we have that fix in though. Also, Iquare, earlier you asked me about if the Sentry Turret will be available. I think it should be available in Zergo 1, and maybe Sienna will build it. He's more concerned with that than with anti-ground than he is with anti-air. So I think that'll be more beneficial. Although I think... Oh, it is ground units only. It's like a Goliath ground attack, basically. He has Goliaths for anti-air anyway, so... Yeah, well, the map design isn't necessarily final. Like, this is really old map design. This is actually from, like, December of 2017, or no, rather 2018, or it's, like, early 2019, whenever I made this map. And then you have to consider also that there's, like, you know, however many renditions or iterations that it went through. So I'm totally open to, you know, opening up more paths than what existed before. I was even considering expanding this out a little bit to the right and then adding a reverse ramp over here so that this pathway would actually be, you know, two-way in a sense. But I kind of also like the fact that it's more beneficial positionally for the Zerg to take. I guess it's more beneficial for them anyway because they can take it from a perspective of, like, they can... it's easier, it's closer to them, but I think that you could easily see the AI throwing some siege tanks up here and blocking this off if it was for that, you know, if it was for that ramp. So that's why I'm reticent to change that particular area. But you'll also notice that a lot of the ramps that were used in this map in general were mostly they were like small thin ramps, and I actually had to go and expand the ramps in general so that we would have more like just more pathways, more wider pathways. As for the rocky ground in Player 1's base, I mean, it's a deliberate design decision to reduce the amount of buildable space that they have. I could move some of it up a little bit, but I haven't seen any playthroughs of people who, like, you know, to demonstrate that it's not balanced right now. You know what I mean? So I would need to see more footage that would suggest that would be like a significantly positive change, if you know what I mean. So I'm not against it completely, Ultralisks, but you'll need to send me some video proof of your conspiratorial claims. What do I have a graphic for? No, I mean I have a placeholder graphic, but it's not going to be the final one. It's the same one I used in Toddborn, if you remember it. All right, pretty up that area a little bit. At some point, I'm going to tie this biome a lot more together by replacing all this with grass. I just need to replace the... I have to make the raised jungle blend with grass, and then make the upper part, the green part on the upper side, more vibrant yellow to be more in line with the default Badlands grass. Green high ground to the north of it that may present an issue with defending... What, over here? Raised jungle? I think that's fine. I don't really see any major issues with it. Though I was also kind of thinking of expanding this over here all the way over to this area and then adding like a higher, like a tier 3 cliff on top of that, but I don't know what the value of that would be in theory. Like right now you can sort of, there's a bunch of different pathways, so I don't know if I want to do that really. I might experiment with it way later on when I have the assets for the grass, raised grass stuff. What's up, Connor? Yeah, pretty soon I'll be releasing this. Really, the biggest problem is that we still haven't fixed under attack, so the AI still take attack units back home to defend or to guard areas that they're expanding to. We also found there was 2 things that I wanted to fix. One of them was the fact that Sienna does his stupid shit and doesn't expand like an idiot. So I gotta fix that. Well, I guess there's the third thing, 3, which is I have to duplicate the triggers for... the Lyragor attacks and do them for Tulgroth. Oh, I forget what the force value is actually. Hold on. Vitreus? Dude, what's up? Holy shit. That's a name. Yeah, you'll play tomorrow? Okay. That's fine. I think a Destroyed Badlands Bridge is probably on the list of things that I had to do eventually. So yeah, for sure. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to do here, but I don't think so. Why don't we try this? See if there's any issues. Seems fine. Oh yeah, the comment for this is still 1. And then the elapsed time is at least 5 seconds.
Alright, let's go again.
I'm sorry to hear that, Vitreus. Will we see aspects in augers and augers in multiplayer melee before Brood War? Maybe, yeah. I mean, those units... I think the only reason why I was going to include... Well, aspect is like a UED unit, right? So that's going to be separated out into its own tech tree. And the augers can probably be added for vanilla even, theoretically. I don't... Like, there was no real... The justification for waiting until Brood War was because their requirement was going to include the Grand Library, and I was going to move a bunch of upgrades that are currently in other structures to the Grand Library, but I didn't want to do that because we didn't have the expanded button sets So if you remember, we had like a conversation about are we going to just make a third tier of Protoss buildings because the first 2 command cards are already full. So we need expanded buttons, and that's why I was going to wait until Brood War. And in so many words, that was the reason why. Yeah, I mean, the bridge doodads themselves shouldn't be too difficult to make general, right? So that should be fine. What is Cordovan's thing? It's HR Tandis and then H Alder? That seems like a bug or something. Hold on, let me see how I did it for Zaz. Yeah, what the hell? That's crazy. So I think for target prep, it's supposed to be Alderis, though. Yeah. That's wild. Is that same thing happening here? Oh, wrong one. No, that's fine here. Okay. Good. We can fix that. So what are we doing after we do that? Sienna's up next. Take a look at their town thread. Okay. So what does their expand require? It waits for the 4th factory to start, right? Okay, so that's probably the issue, right? So then we can do bring jump 13, at least wait 2, command center, 40, and then we can change it to 3 factory. He'll never have money. Although I'm really not sure why he never expanded. That seems awfully odd. It's probably just that it was never high enough in his priority list. So why don't we then check the command center priorities, see what those are. Because they might need to be higher. It's 55, I mean, it works for the Zerg. I can buff it up to 60 though. Might help. Then at least they'll get the expansions started, in theory. Okay, so we'll do that. Now, the other issue was with Ultramarine. I noticed that they fucked up their shield battery, but I also don't know what else they're screwing up. With new tool, we can make extended button sets. Yeah. That's way better to do it through a tool. So I'm willing to wait as long as necessary. Like the Augur isn't like a huge, like really, really important unit, I don't think, that needs to be added to the game. And if it really was that important, I would find a way to do it without having the Grand Library at all. It'd be like the upgrades are right now, where it would just require a Templar Archives and maybe the High Templar would need to be at max energy or something. I don't know, like some sort of change like that. Which might end up being something like maybe they have to be over 200 energy but to do that in the first place. That might be something that I do anyway, right? Upgrades like Astral Aegis or Ascendancy might be fitting for Grand Library. Yeah, I mean the thing is, like, the Grand Library was meant to be like basically you could almost conceive of it as an upgraded version of, like, the Spire is a Greater Spire, like the Greater Spire is to a Spire how the Grand Library is to a Templar Archives. It doesn't morph into it. It's not like when you convert a gateway into a Warp Anchor or something. But I want it to be seen as like the next step. Like Citadel of Adun, then Templar Archives, then Grand Library. You know what I mean? Like that would be the progression in the tech tree. And so I want it to feel like that. And so yeah, I think max level upgrades would be probably on the Grand Library. The stuff that like is, I don't know if you would use Forbidden Knowledge to describe something like this for the Protoss, but something like that, where they're really tapping into the reserves of the utmost importance. They're digging deep. Well, I think the Augur's point is that it's very short-lived. and it burns a huge fucking light. Like, it leaves an impression, you know what I mean? So that's where I'm thinking it's probably that, like, it'll have the... What does the current write-up say about the auger? So I didn't really put its stats in. I think Final Hour will probably be converted into a damaged field that persists over time. In addition to the initial explosion, it'll probably behave sort of similar to the ion cannon projectile, which deals damage on hit, but like in the area of its impact zone, and then leaves a damage field after. That's probably what Final Hour will turn into. So you'll probably see augers be used mostly as like suicide tank bust things. But only when you have the Templar in position. You got to get the slow-moving Templar in a position to turn it into the auger. It'll have more movement speed than an Archon, I'm almost certain. And there will be some mechanic to prevent it from just being popped immediately in the right hands. So I'm not really sure what that'll be like, but in theory, you could actually try to persist. Like, one of the AIs that's going to use them will be this. There'll be like a fanatical subgroup of Protoss, and I'm not talking about Tal'Darim. I just mean like very, very zealous. And they'll be using like, they'll spam out like legions of legionnaires similar to Tassadar, but they'll also be using Templar in a different way. They will use some Archons, but they're also going to use augers a lot. And the way that they're going to try to use them is actually to bring in bulwarks, the mobile shield batteries, and keep them alive as long as possible. They'll be putting a premium on that because augers deal so much damage. It's just that they always die very quickly after being built in conventional settings. So you're going to have this experience of other AIs occasionally using augers and them not being short-lived but very, very dangerous. And then this AI comes in and tries to use them in a completely different way that makes them theoretically able to destroy like entire armies depending on what happens. Obviously with enough support. So... No, augers are basically... So the idea behind the unit is that a High Templar with over 200 energy turns into an auger. It like morphs as if like, you know, 2 High Templar make an Archon. Well, 1 High Templar makes this very volatile Archon-like entity. And this unit deals a crazy amount of damage, moves faster, but its shields degenerate over time. And when it has no shields, it just dies. So it's like very vulnerable to stuff like EMP, which deals damage to shields. You know, stuff like that. And it's meant to be this like tank bust type thing where it really, if it gets close enough to deal some damage, it's going to deal a crazy amount of damage. If it's alive for longer than like 5 seconds, it'll probably be considered a success. Very, very small window of opportunity. And you're going to have some AIs that try to keep them alive as long as possible with bulwarks, these shield recharge things, the shield batteries that morph into bulwarks, and the bulwarks themselves are mobile. And so you'll see stuff like that happen a lot. Clarions obviously will help as well in that sense. You're going to see some really crazy shit out of that. But that's right now considered a Brood War unit. I don't know that I'll be adding it before. We will see. But anyway, let me get back to this. What could possibly be botching their stuff here? So they wait for the third game. I think they expand fine. The issue is just that I think their second shield battery request is off by somehow. That was the one thing that I did notice. So let me pop into, or I could just consult the image that I left myself here. Ultramarine main. So we start off. Where's the starting point here? Here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So they need 6 for the second shield battery. That's all. So just move that down 1. We'll see if that stops them from blocking themselves off. That was just me being an idiot. Okay, so save that. Add this. See if we can get a good test going again. Okay. No, they don't have hit points. Oh yeah, that's right. So Archons, when they die, can give 50 shields. It's another way that they can be suiciding Archons to give life to the augers. Pretty psychotic. All right, so we want to be watchful of Sienna in the early game. See what our changes actually did to it. So exactly. In theory, once they get their third factory up, they should try to expand. And they should wait before requesting anything else. Naturally, they have their Academy requests and Engineering Bay requests still. Oh, maybe not. I think that I saw those requests. Alright, off they go. Now that does cut into some of their money for attacking units, but they seem to be training them all the same. This is epic. Alright, well, they're getting their expansion. So they should be a bit more stable. Remember, Sienna was also the monster that was annihilating before, so... You know, food for thought, perhaps. So now they're getting Gateway, Forge, and a Shield Battery should be coming up as well. Why did they put it there? Why? What went wrong here? Is it not in the right spot? Is the pylon not in the right spot? I think the pylon needs to be moved to the right. No. Pylon should be fine. That area is buildable. Why don't you build there? Idiots. I haven't tested last orders yet. I was going to wait until you fixed up the crash and stuff. If you want me to test it before, I can try my best to implement it all. I had other things that I definitely needed to fix up first. I haven't even told this AI to get last orders if they go the scout path, which I haven't actually seen any indication that they have or have not yet, so it'll be interesting. All right, so Sienna should be a little bit less aggressive initially because they have to take this expansion, right? But they should be all right. In this case, I don't know what the holdup is for them to build. They actually don't even have any more requests for building stuff, apparently. They're not getting any gas at all, of course. They need a Citadel of a Doom, but they're not building it. Why they aren't building it, I have no idea. Why did they need to wait until their Nexus was done? What? I've never seen that before. Unless it's... No, it's not. I mean, it's at least wait to Nexus, but they have the Nexus before it's done building, technically, so... No, I don't want to do that because that's subject to... Why would that... Why would that happen? Wow. The amount of damage done. And the tanks are still alive. There we go. That was a crazy amount of damage done, though. Alright, so why don't we say... We'll just wait, I guess, 360 instead. Or 480. We'll give them 30 seconds after that. Mass up some money. See what they can do. Hopefully that'll improve their performance. Players AI masses Zerglings into Queens. They do build some Hydras for anti-air. But yeah, they for the most part try to pick off Sienna. I mean Scarlet. Omega Squadron. Uh-oh. This egg has a kill! Okay, bye. Do you know why it crashes right now, or are you just not gonna... You're gonna investigate it more tomorrow, or... I don't know what you were planning on doing. Oh yeah, this is great. This is an excellent move. Hi, how are you? We're here to steal your money. Take your jobs. I wonder how long until this turns into a disaster. Oh, nice. 4 Sunkens, no Spore. Just like I programmed them. We're being bullied. He's killing his own fucking workers. Hi. Dude, unupgraded Hydras do nothing to Wraiths now because of the size change. Wraiths are actually good. Actually good, guys. All it took was the size change. And they're fucking strong-ass units. I don't know how this player is even doing, money-wise. Could be better. Could have not suicided all of my drones into the other expansion, you know? Could have done that. Also, Iquare, I think one of the issues that I saw, or I was noticing in general, with Get Old Peons, I know DF reported that it was not, it seemed like it wasn't working. Well, I think it has something to do with distance between the expansion that their workers are transitioning to. Hi. Bye. So I think if it's a certain distance away, they won't do it. But I'm not sure. Alright, we've already pretty significantly reworked this, but I'm also noticing that the other Zerg, the ones that are not Cordovan, are not really doing too much. Oh, he's actually building his shit over here, though, which is nice. Pretty cool. Redwood's done his main up. Some units attacking. Some. Notably absent on Mutas there. I don't know how this ramp is working out for them just yet. Hopefully it's nice.
Nuclear launch detected.
Who knows where that nuke is? Apparently it didn't. Oh! Good nuke! Mwah! Kissy! Good boy. Pretty good attack. Oh, here we go. Now we're getting somewhere. I see they're just trying to, they're actually just trying to bully Sienna's fourth here. Man, Sienna's going to be a fucking powerhouse if you don't stop him now that his expansions are fixed. He's not really doing anything in here. Oh, and he got himself stuck over here with that missile turret. I guess I can move that to the right one. Right? Can I? Oh. Maybe this. Hi. We look great. Hi. Dude, this is we're getting somewhere, guys. AI is doing something. Hi. How are you? Zaz doesn't take his staging area very early, which is unfortunate, but he at least does this. Hi. I don't know what the fuck this is. This is not the base location for the bunkers that I told the AI to build. But they have a reckoning. And it is no unupgraded Mutalisks attacking them. That is their reckoning. I assume he's at least getting an upgrade. No, he's building a second spire, not getting an upgrade. SMA. Hi. This is still a pretty decent attack in terms of number of units. Hello! What was the fixed eye script you're talking about, Akbar? I love that they're building depots behind this, by the way. That's pretty good. Hi. Whew. Ultralisks is a happy man now. There was at least one Reaver drop. There's nothing that I can do that tells the AI to build or not build Overlords and bring them with attacks. When they get hit with a cloaked unit, they always move a detector in there. That's a built-in behavior. Man, if only they didn't lose most of their fucking shuttles when they were landing here. Oh, okay. What could this be? That looks like it's a plug-in crash based on the address. Well, guys, so much for releasing it today. Oh, you idiot. Mixer chat is broken? Okay, well, I'll pull it up in a second so you can stay on that platform instead of this one. Can I get Terran to dropship tanks at top left for harassment? I can't tell the AI to ever build to use transports for attacks unless I target an island. So, no. Unfortunately. Well, at least the function it crashed on is small. It shouldn't be calling that at all, though, Iquare, because, oh, right now it's supposed to, it's just in images.data or sprites.data or something. It uses the small explosion graphic, so I should just send you my sprite stat, probably. But hold on, let me, go. Alright, I think we helped those AIs out anyway, a little bit. Yeah, as far as you know, outside of that crash, I think we're good. Like, that map is pretty much done now. Let me go and open Mixer chat. All right. Did I complete Black Mesa? I mean, Don said at some point that Black Mesa was supposed to be getting an update to release the final bits of the game, but I haven't confirmed that with him. Yeah, top left is technically an island. I already target that with Scarlet. But they don't usually use it properly because it has to be both that the target or the prep region is an island and the target is an island. Otherwise, they unload the units halfway to the destination. So they would bring transports here in the top left, and if I targeted like the main of Redwood or this area or something like that, they would just like unload them up here, and the rest they'd just walk down, and it would actually become they would be like the same or worse as just having them attack normally through ground. At least that's been my observations so far, but I haven't really aggressively observed that. It's just dumb, always. All right, then I have to have more questions to answer from Dynamo, and then I have to send sprite stat to iClair. Yeah, I'm gonna be. It's not even a new faction. It's like it's gonna be considered a new race. Like in the drop-down menu, you'll pick Terran, Protoss, Zerg, UED. So there's probably gonna be more than just that as far as new races are concerned. But let's see if we can replicate that crash. And I'll just Control S to turn the sound off. And I will be right back because I have to use the bathroom. Okay, so as you can see, we did indeed get the crash again. Going to pop open this. Bing bong, more like you. Oh, I was answering your questions earlier. I can see your chat though. I pulled it up myself. It's just not visible on the stream. So you asked if I completed Black Mesa. Yeah, I did. But I think... You know what? 6926B7 F0. I also think that Don at some point said the game was going to come out with a patch soon in the next few days. He said that earlier this week, and it was supposed to bring the final area that we didn't get to play. So if that happens, I will obviously play that because of the fortuitous timing of it. If not, I'll just review what I played, and that'll be coming out this week or next week or something. There's source files. I don't think that there's much I can tell you here. Well, if you want to send me your Ollie debug version, I can. Yours must be somehow different than mine, so you can just send me yours and I can hook it up. See you later, Connor. Thanks for hanging. Yeah, this is debug. What do you mean in debug build? A debug build of Ollie debug? I don't know what that is. If you mean debug build of A's, like I'm using the A's debug plugin. I have log, executable modules, memory map, list of windows, threads, CPU, handles, watches, search results, run trace, patches, INT3 breakpoints, memory breakpoints, hardware breakpoints, VEH, SEH chain, call stack, source files, file, and drive. I don't know what I'm going to be doing for their quote-unquote super weapons, Dynamo. I think... yeah, I don't know. I'm going to be building most of their technology around, well, different things. So. Just send me your Ollie debug! Just go into your Ollie debug folder and zip it all up and send it to me as a zip. Oh, I guess it has all these UDD files, which I assume are from analysis. So I probably don't need all these. Maybe you only need this. I don't know. I don't remember what Ollie debug was like. I grabbed it. Yeah, if you, I just held down spacebar or held down plus and it worked fine. Okay, bye. Well, I don't know why that happened. $217. Okay. All right, we'll close that. And okay. That should fix that. All right, Icor, I'm going to send it to you in a sec. I just need to upload it to Mega. Yeah, I had the same thought about the Psi Disruptor stuff. I really don't want it to be something that it's like limited in efficacy against non-Zerg. Hello, Last the Row TV. No Hablo Russian. Good luck. Chokavo. I don't know if I talked to you about the idea that I had for the UED building dynamo. So UED, the way that I'm going to have them actually deploy structures, their command center equivalent, their town hall, is actually going to be an orbital... what's the term? Well, basically, it's going to be this collection chamber. And what it does is it actually shoots the resources that you collect up into space. And then the context of that is the orbiting vessel from the UED's fleet grabs it with a tractor beam. Like it grav lifts it in, basically. And so that's collecting the resources while your structure is just shooting it up. So whenever resources return, that would be something that happens as a dynamic event or whatever, an animation and sound effect. And it'd be pretty mild. It wouldn't be too eye-catchy, but it would be showing you what's happening. And so the context behind that is that you actually are mostly upgrading stuff on your ship, or that's like a significant portion of what you're doing. So your orbital vessel, the support ship, actually deploys your structures for you. So it's similar to Command & Conquer, but there's no build space. So there's no requirements of an area. You just have to have active vision of it, like in StarCraft, before you start building a structure. And the structure constructs off-world in your ship and then deploys. So the deployment time, like the construction time of the structure, is shorter than the equivalent. Their barracks is actually a teleportation pad for infantry, and their barracks teleports down or gets deployed down, like it fires from similar to the resources being shot up into space. This gets shot down with like a drop pod style thing, and self-assembles. And that assembly time, that drop-down time, is added, in theory, it's added to the build time to make up for the fact that they're building it faster. If you love to play a Zerg, drink tea. Okay. I will do that, thank you. So that's how they build structures anyway. Their workers are just for resource harvesting and for scouting. They probably won't even have an attack. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that. But the teleportation pads that they have are responsible for teleporting squads of infantry. And by squads, I don't mean the feared squad from like all of those bad RTS games. But it's like I'm playing around with the idea that you would be able to, like, that. Really, the only actual charge for the teleporter is like it would have some sort of like the time it takes to train a unit. In theory, the unit would already be trained and deployed, so they would suit up on the ship and then they would deploy through a teleporter. And so, in theory, you could teleport more than just one unit. And the pad's size is what restricts the number of units you could teleport down. So you could teleport up to 4 units or something. And the train time would not change. The train time would be the same as if you teleported 1 Marine, you teleport 4 Marines. So it would remain the same. But there would be some other way to offset that cost. I'm not sure what that would be. So whatever the cap is, it might be, you might only be able to get up to 2 for the infantry. And, maybe it's always up to 2. Maybe it's up to 2 for everything, and that's just a racial trait that they have. Yes, somebody mentioned that some games have like I think the Dune games have. I think it was UD Commander mentioned that the Dune games have some behavior like that, and so because they get ferried to you through a transport or something. Right. This would just be the default way of getting units, I think, for the UED. Well, I think it could point to the fact that the UED have actually done their homework before coming here. So they have that sort of technology prepared. Which I like the idea of. I just don't... I'm averse to the idea that what they're doing is literally hard countering the enemy, right? So I don't know how to make that work. Like, I would have to make the mechanics of these counters work in such a way that, like, maybe they don't purely counter just Zerg. The Side Disruptor has some utility against spellcasters as well. So if you go up against a spellcaster, Heavy Terran, or Protoss, or UED faction, as UED, maybe you could still build the Side Disruptor and get some mileage out of it. So that would be like one example. Obviously, EMP would also counter spellcasters, so I wouldn't really want to just do purely EMP. It would have to be something else. And to counter Caprilu Terrans, I don't even know what they would do. Probably something to deal with mechanical units. But again, then that could be translated to countering something from Protoss. And perhaps whatever debilitating effects it has on organic units would still be useful against Zerg. So it's more than just a binary choice of, if I'm against this race, build that. Like that's what I'm worried about. And I would also have to make it so that whatever the effect it has is something that the other player can obviously play around, so that it's offering enough skill expression. And it's not just, oh, I built this because you're the enemy race that I'm fighting against, and so I gain an advantage as a result because I built this, and I only had to build this. That was the end of my decision making. So like, when it comes to making the decision of what to build, I need it to be dynamic. I need it to be open-ended, and I need it to fit into different build orders and different opponents and different playstyles. And when it comes to fighting against it on the other end and using it as the player who built it, both of those things have to have skill-based expression that is also different depending on matchups, but still valid depending on different matchups. And so that's where I think I run into those issues. So I'm not averse to the concept. It's more like, that is a concept that I definitely need to spend a lot of time trying to figure out how it will work. You know what I mean? Yeah. Well, this is the same thing that I was struggling with regards to the Chrysalis. So first I changed the Chrysalis from a power-up that you can pick up with a drone to a structure, because I just wanted it to be a structure, and then I was like, wait, if you lose the structure, you lose the game. So instead what I'll do is I'll make the structure burrow underneath the ground and hide and no longer provide a beneficial effect. So it'll have some sort of beneficial effect. I came up with the idea that it will do... It'll act as a shield battery for energy. So you'll see, queens gathering around it, defilers in the late game. And so it'll probably just end up being it'll be called Psionic Chrysalis or something instead of Mature Chrysalis. Zerg Psy Cocoon, isn't that from Retribution or something? So I can put something together for that. And then it'll still actually act as some sort of unit that you can build, generally speaking, after this. And so it just happens to be a starting unit for you. So that's what I was thinking, but at the same time it has to be, like, I think it would have to be a unit that is introduced in the 4th Zerg mission after the chrysalis you have hatches. And there would have to be some sort of thing where, like, it hatches into something. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't... In conventional play, it won't burrow underneath ground. That's a gimmick for the story because it has Kerrigan in it. But in conventional gameplay, when it is destroyed, depending on how long it's been around, or maybe depending on how much energy it actually has reserved, it will spawn a different kind of unit. So it'll start out at like 50 energy, and below 100 energy it spawns like an aberrant Zergling, maybe, for free. You get a free aberrant Zergling. And 150 energy and above, it's a free aberrant Hydralisk, and 200 energy, a free aberrant Mutalisk, and then 250 energy, it's a random chance to spawn a free aberrant... well, no, I think at that point it would just be a free aberrant Queen. The aberrant Ultralisk and aberrant Defiler are really, really broken units at the current conception. As far as I understand them, they are really strong. So I don't want to just make it so that it's... I don't want to make it so that it's, like, impossible to counter that. Like, you just build them and then it randomly gives you one, right? So I don't want it to be random. I think it's just certain breakpoints of energy. So from 50 energy to 100, you get the Zergling. From 100 to 150, you get the Hydralisk. 150 to 200, you get the Mutalisk. And 200 to 250, you get the Queen. I think that would be a way to make it so that it's still gestating as a cocoon. It's still spawning something, right? And it provides the... If you want to use some of its energy, there'll be like a hatch button. You can just trigger a hatch immediately. If it's like a panic button in a sense. And the other thing that you can do with that is... well, obviously you can regenerate energy using it as a shield battery if you want. So there's different ways to use it. I think that's way better as a concept for a unit than just it being the structure you have to keep alive. I always hated those things anyway. I hated it when it was a hero and it actually had some benefit, let alone when it was just a structure. You know what I mean? Will the Protoss get some purification beam? Yeah, that's what the Starcaller is. Because StarCraft 2 is terrible, especially for making maps. That's why. In short. So the Starcaller, it's basically like a siege, a capital ship that is it's not really siege. It's long range. It's more like Guardian range. So it still is siege in a sense, right? But it's actually kind of underwhelming with its attack. The Planet Cracker ability is really where it starts to do some crazy shit. So it does 500 damage over 10 seconds, which is equivalent to a nuke. But it does it to all ground units, and it's normal damage, not explosive damage. And it only deals it to ground targets. Air targets are immune. I might change that so that air targets within a certain a smaller radius take damage or something, but I'm not sure. But it's basically like exactly what it sounds like. It's just a glassing cannon. So yeah, I mean, the most recent changes that I made as far as this page go, I changed up the Exemplar's role a little bit so that you'll see Kadarin Control is their ability that you have to research, and it diverts engine power to the Exemplar's weapon system. So it increases the anti-ground attack range, but it slows them down massively. And basically, they turn into very, very slow-moving aerial siege tanks, which obviously sounds busted as fuck, but these are very expensive units. They're like, I probably will make them even more expensive than they already are, and in order to get access to them, you have to build a Stargate and then morph that Stargate into another structure, which is the Argosy, I think. Yeah, and the Argosy requires a robotic support base, so the barrier of entry to even get those units is pretty high. And again, then you have to upgrade Kadar and Control, which is... It's called like Psionic Eclipse or something. Oh, Kadar and Eclipse. Requires Templar Archives. Yeah, so like, to get access to Exemplars, you need one side of the tech tree for the robotic stuff, and to get access to their upgrade, you need a Templar Archives, the other side of the tech tree. So you can see, like, right now, I might streamline it and make it more like you just need a Templar Archives to get this upgrade, but you need a Citadel of Adun to get the Argosy so that you can build these things. I don't know how it'll end up being. But right now, it's because they're very, very strong that I wanted to make sure that they weren't, you know, overly so. Yeah, UED will probably just come with that. They'll build it themselves. But there's a chance that, well, the psi emitters were made by the Confederates, right? So I could also imply that actually that the psi emitters were recovered technology from the UED, or the UED like introduced the psi emitters. You know what I mean? And they painted it off as like some Umojan work. Or some other Terran faction, like it was like a black operations to make it seem like they were developing this technology, but it was actually from the UED. I can imply that through dialogue or something, so that the source remains the same, and it just reflects the UED's desire to do that. Like if I wanted a fan fiction something like that in, I certainly could. Yeah. It could also be that's the simpler approach, is that the psi emitters were made by the Confederacy, the UED show up and finish what they started and turn it into some sort of structure that they can build. It'll certainly be more, well, more sensible than Blizzard's lack of explanation. Yeah, in Brood War, the Kalmorians and Umojans will be more pronounced for the campaign. I'm making entire sub-factions for them. Like the Mercury that's in the Terran new unit section is a Kalmorian unit. No, it's fine. Right now I'm just trying to compile plugins. I'm missing some headers and stuff from iQuery. He's gonna send me them later. He's trying to test a crash that I just found. It's good for me to think about some of this stuff anyway, though. Recently I was doing a once-over for the Hydra game state dialogue, or a document anyway. And I'm just going to... I'm going to skip that. I'm going to pull this up, minimize that. And, okay. All right, so one of the things I was interested in your thoughts on anyway was the aberrants. The aberrants are pretty crazy, I think. They definitely have a lot of overhead for like player information in order for you to like learn what they actually do. And I think part of it might be that it's going to feel like there's invisible benefits because of the aura that they provide other units. So I might look to streamline those just by giving the, like, they basically have these 3 different classes of mutations. And there's Haste, Might, and Swarm. And each one goes up to level 2, so it's limited in how much you can evolve a specific aberrant. But the idea is that the more you evolve them, the more valuable they get, because the more resources you pumped into them, stats should increase a little bit so that you can, you know, you have more leeway when it comes to actually using them, right? And they're more effective as a result. So there's blanket benefits, there's generic bonuses, and these apply to the aberrant no matter what morph they are in, and no matter like what their weapon is or what their movement speed is or anything like that. So like when they level up Haste, they get these benefits, which is per level, they get 10% increased movement and attack speed and 15% increased acceleration if they're an air unit or a hovering unit, so they actually start to move faster. For Might, they get increased base damage for their weapon, so that's before upgrades, and increased HP and +1 armor. And that's pretty generic, pretty basic stuff. Now for Swarm, it's a little bit different because they increase the damage that that allied units do to their target. If they've been attacked in the last 4 seconds by the aberrant, they take increased damage from other sources. And all of the units in their aura will also receive 25% of whatever the bonuses they get from here. So that's like, again, it's percentages and numbers and shit flying around. But basically, whatever the sum total of, like, 10% or 20%, if they've got Haste level 2, they'll get 25% of that. Shit like that. So, again, it's a lot of numbers, obviously. But then each individual aberrant, so the Nathracor is the aberrant Zergling, Conva Moth is the aberrant Hunter Killer, or aberrant Hydralisk, Achistragon is the aberrant Mutalisk, and they all have their own, in addition to those generic benefits, they have unique behavior increases or upgrades. So, like, basically traits that get applied to the unit. So when you mutate Haste on the Nathracor, they get Adrenal Surge. It's called Adrenaline Surge here. I gotta correct that at some point. Adrenal Surge, which is the same behavior that the Vorvaling has, where they move faster towards enemy units. That was changed to an upgrade now, so you have to upgrade that separately. But Adrenal Surge is something for the Nathracor when you upgrade Haste 1. So Haste 1 gives them that. And Haste 2 gives them increased HP regeneration after killing an enemy. I don't know how long it'll be. It'll probably be like for over 5 seconds or something. So, meaning if it chains a lot of kills together, it can get a long, like a near constant accelerated HP regeneration. So, since it's level 2, I'll probably increase it to like 100%, so it doubles HP regeneration or triples or something, because 50% is actually not that much. But the idea that they basically get rewarded for staying alive in the middle of combat, and they can stay alive for longer. It's not quite lifesteal. It's more like just regeneration in battle. And so these are just like a basic rundown. Obviously, there's a lot more shit here. But the idea is that if you get some really powerful aura benefits. So if you level up Swarm to level 2, then all nearby allies, no matter what unit they are, it could be a Zergling, could be an Ultralisk, could be a Hydralisk, could be a Guardian, they'll all get Adrenal Surge, which is, again, that upgrade that increases their movement speed when they move towards enemies. So you can imagine how powerful just that alone could be. And that's where you get a recipe for like, holy shit, this could be really game changing. But you have to pump in a lot of resources to mutate these units to get to the level 2 of Swarm. That's, I forget what the cost is. Yeah, so that's a net total of 250 minerals and gas to get to the unit to that level. Plus, just to deploy this unit costs 100 minerals and 25 gas. So 350 minerals and 275 gas in order, and plus whatever the time cost turns out to be, in order to get the Nathracor and upgrade it to level 2 Swarm. And then it's still pretty weak in terms of vital stats, so it could get sniped down. So maybe you want to upgrade its might or something. Like, you can imagine where shit like this can, despite the fact that there's very potent abilities for it, it's very vulnerable, right? They do replace the conventional heroes, because by default the only heroes that you get in the Zerg campaign is Infested Kerrigan, or like you get Hunter Killers for a brief period of time, then Infested Kerrigan, and then in Brood War you get Infested Duran. And so I've done those guys over anyway, so that you see, you know, you have some significant changes to them. But the idea is that you will mostly be using Aberrants, and there's no cap on how many Aberrants you can make. So you can make as many as you want. In theory, you could have an army full of Aberrants. So that's my spiel about those. It's definitely going to be well, there's a lot to disassemble with that. But I was just saying that the heroes get removed, or the only heroes you get in Vanilla Zerg and in Brood War Zerg, you get Hunter Killers in a few missions, Devouring Ones in a few missions, and you get Kerrigan and Duran. And I did makeovers for Duran and Kerrigan as far as their stats go. Those are in the document as well. But the Aberrants basically do that. That is what they do. So they replace the general heroes. So the same way that you get Terran heroes that you can deploy, and Protest heroes that you can deploy and then upgrade with relics, Terran heroes you can upgrade with different forms and the upgrades for them specifically. The Aberrants in general are like, you upgrade them on an individual basis. Yeah, well, Goska is sort of supposed to be like that. Like, the Overmind gave edicts to infest a number of psionically gifted individuals. Goska and Kerrigan happen to be them. You know what I mean? Or happen to be among them, we'll say. I don't know that Infested Ghosts will be a regular thing. In Brood War, there will be an infested subfaction for Zerg. So there's going to be a whole set of infested units and whatnot. And in fact, if I get enough development on that, I may pivot that away and have infested Terrans be their own race. Completely distinct from both Zerg and Terran in that sense. And you'll see infested... Maybe you'll even see some infested Protoss or infested UED, depending on what happens. Like, one idea that I had was that there would be, like, a spellcaster type unit for the infested that would actively infest whatever organic target was there, and then they could get an upgrade to infest... I think Infested Medics was what it did. So... well, Iquare, it might be something related to my insane hotkey crash. Maybe you can send me a compiled GPTP plugin on your end, and I can try to do it. With that, maybe that will help. But otherwise, I have no idea, as usual. I also need a config file. It won't start without that. I guess I have this. Will this do? I'll try that. Maybe that'll do it. Oh, I need to actually add last orders, isn't it? Yes, yeah, I found a config and I didn't know that that one worked. I thought it was like pre-release or something. That would make more sense than her just recycling Cerebrits or whatever. So yeah, it might be an infested commander. I don't really want to humanize it too much, though. I was thinking instead it would be some sort of, like, something that isn't a Cerebrit and something that isn't an infested Terran would be some sort of Zerg creation or Terran-Zerg hybrid, in a sense that it's not like an infested Terran where... I guess Kerrigan is sort of like an infested Zerg hybrid, or Terran-Zerg hybrid, right? Because she was, like, gestated or whatever, and that was different. She's closer to what a Terran Zerg hybrid would actually be, I think, compared to just an infested Terran, which is just like it was a Terran. Well, I guess so. She wasn't born as both Terran and Zerg, or born of both genes. She was reborn in a sense, but not really the same thing. So I guess that's where the distinction would be. Whereas I would probably make it so that it's like an actual Terran Zerg hybrid would be doing that. Yeah, exactly. Wow, this site sucks. Why is it downloading at 1 kilobyte per second? Yeah, I think that the idea that Cerebrits merge to create a new Overmind is really stupid. But I don't know. I don't really have an alternative for it, and I don't really want to change the story too much, and because it's not the focus of Hydra anyway. I just think it's so dumb that that is really the case. That would be the logical step. As he would be the successor. I have a feeling it might even be CAG, though. It might be that if I wanted to make a fusion of Cerebrits turn into the Overmind, it would make sense for Kag and Dagoth to be it. Because if you go in, there's another thing that I did recently, which is the Hydra faction sheet, and if you look at it, there's two separate agents of the Overmind. So in this case, it's Istrathic, which is supposed to be like Istrathic and Orlitoskos are supposed to be these like arcane names that nobody really knows what they mean. They're very much meant to be like Zerg names or whatever, right? I just came up with them on the spot, and the idea is that like Kag is the main Cerebrit under Orlitoskos, and Dagoth is the main Cerebrit under Istrathic. So you would get out of that if they were to merge. They would like maybe they had separate genuses or something. Like their genetics diverged from that point onward, and they're instances of two separate kinds of Cerebrit gene. And so the idea that they would merge back together to create the Overmind might make some sense. Yeah, infested Protoss will be a thing. I didn't like it that it made no it never made any sense to me anyway. That Protoss were never allowed to do that. Well, I'm cannibalizing most of them for the Aberrants Ultralisks, but I came up with some concepts for like the Tarask and whatnot. I do want to make like some more super strained Zerg at some point. Right, yeah, I think it would be completely new, ideally. Yeah, definitely the super strains will be Brood War only. I don't have any plans to try to include them in. There's no reason to include them right now. I can't believe this is taking so long to download, dude. I have a gigabyte download speed. So this server is really hurting. Yeah, you can just change it based on. You change it based on a lot of different stuff, right? You change it based on like just behaviors in general. And I think I've told more of a story anyway through these maps than the default ones did, and they don't have any. These ones don't even have any dialogue really. Finally. No, Protoss do need to be destroyed. I quickly figured out that they're more of a threat than the Terrans. Theoretically, they can be. So. Yeah, there is gameplay storytelling. That's what I mean. I feel like that's what tells the story for you. Like, just based on this, Zaz likes to scout and go air. Lyragor likes to... Oh, this might be it. That's less convenient. Source is empty, I queer. There's nothing in here. What's your idea, Dynamo? Hit us with it. Well, Kalmorians are going to be using mercenaries for their forces for the most part. That's how I'm going to handle that. Because the Kalmorians are miners, and they've got, tech that's like drilling for mining and stuff. Like, that's where the mercury comes from. But they're going to be hiring mercenaries out a lot. I think the UED instead will probably have some sort of alliance mechanism. Icor's been working on diplomacy in Starcraft for his mod. I might take some stuff related to that and just have that be a generic function in the Brood War campaigns across all of them. But the idea behind the UED in general, I think, should be that you can manage alliances within the campaign by doing certain, like, it's saved across bank data, basically. So your progress in the campaigns is going to be like, did you do this for this special interest group? Did you do this for this faction? So you'll have I'll actually be bringing Eritreus, who or Eritreus, I haven't decided how I want to pronounce it yet, but there's an AI basically named Eritreus, and the AI is actually running the Black Ops for the Confederation, or the Confederacy. So IRF Omicron is the task force, but it's actually being run by an artificial intelligence rather than a human commander, a Terran commander. And this is something that you encounter in vanilla. And one of the things that I wanted the UED to come up against was precisely this. And they would have some intel on it, but they thought it was like a call sign. They didn't think it was an AI. And like it might be that you as a player don't even know that. You might not even know that it's an AI at all. It might not be revealed to be an AI until much later. In the Brood War campaign itself is like a twist in a sense. And that will be a special interest group at this point in Brood War, because they were able to survive. That task force was able to survive the transition, and they're not aligned with the Dominion. Because they were shadow ops, there was no records of them being kept. There was sightings on battlefields when you fight against them in the vanilla Terran campaign. But as soon as the Terran campaign is over, they pretty much go dark, except for being responsible for security in Amerigo and in Into the Darkness, the two installation maps for that are remaining for the campaign by that point. So you'll see Omicron in Brood War as well, and that I think that's going to be interesting, because like they'll be specifically requesting really strange shit, like morally bankrupt shit for sure, but also just bizarre. Like they'll ask you to specifically execute certain other Terran factions that otherwise like, you would potentially be allying with or something. But they'll also have like some of the best rewards potentially, as far or like depending on your playstyle, obviously. So yeah, I'm not sure. Like obviously details are not final. I haven't even figured out how I want to handle any of that really, but it's just one of the ideas. I'm interested in the idea of mercenaries as a more broad concept, like factions allying with you and being different depending on the mission that you're in and the faction that you are and your past maneuvers, right? Yeah, I remember that. Very bizarre behavior. Yeah, I could see them using some sort of tactics that are like that to beguile other factions that are desperate to helping them out. Could be interesting. All right. I'll be right back. I'm gonna make myself a sandwich. But don't worry, I'll only be gone in like 5 minutes. Hi. We don't have any music anymore. Should fix that.
Hey guys!
So yeah, Dynamo, you were talking about using mercenaries. It's funny to me that the everybody has their own interpretation, right, of what the UED should actually be doing, or Ultralisks got destroyed by Hey Guys. But it's really funny to me. It's like Blizzard made it was so vague and pointless with their inclusion of the UED that everybody has their own idea of what they should be. You know what I mean? Like, because Blizzard left everybody so dissatisfied, I guess. Right. What's good is so long as their victory was achieved, like, it's much easier for them to say that it was acceptable losses when it was somebody else, right? What is this? Why is it there? Yeah, Iquar, there's no source anywhere. I literally did this. I went all the way to the top, and I went all the way to the bottom, and I selected everything, and then I did view source, and there's nothing here. This is A's, BW's, Struct's building AI. Yeah, unfortunately, this one's not playing ball, it seems. By comparison, emphasis on the by. Oh, yeah, that's right. I can't save that yet. What the fuck? Ha. Ha ha. So the whole reason for that was so I could clean this up, because this is triggering me. I was actually thinking about that the other day because there's obviously currently there's only 9 missions in the Terran campaign, right? So it would be nice to bring that up to speed with the rest of the races, but we'll see. I haven't decided yet. Every single map is a large map with AI allies, so it's not really that out of the ordinary. One of the key aspects of Hydra's development was actually reducing the disparity between missions. The only thing that's unique about the maps, right, like is the terrain, the layout, and the tech available. Obviously, some maps have different opponents as well, but I don't really consider that a map-specific trait. That's just your opponent on the map. So I kind of liken it more to Melee. In Melee, you may play the same opponent on different maps, or you may play the different opponent on the same map. Right. So in Hydra's specific case, most of the time, what you're doing as a player is you're playing different maps, and the same opponent. Same set of opponents every time you launch the map, right? So it's a little bit more fixed than Melee, obviously. And that's fine. But that's how I think of it more so than like trying to make each map have something really unique about it. Like what's unique about it is the layout. The layout is unlike any other map, just by definition. So actually, I would say the difficulty is less from... What's the term? The difficulty from the campaign missions is less about, oh, it's harder the more missions you play. Like the map 10 is harder than map 1. Actually, not necessarily. Can you adapt in time to withstand all of the new tech options that you unlock? And to deal with the fact that the AI can throw those same tech options back at you if it's a mirror matchup or something else can happen that's in that vein. Like, can you handle that? If you can't handle, if you can't scale with the tech tree, then of course you're going to wind up in situations where the later maps feel harder because the AI has more tools to attack you with, and you've got more things that you've got to account for as a player. But that's not really, what's a good way to explain this? That's not really like, that's more of a difficulty that one player might have, right? So, the AI are always trying to kill you in every single mission. That never changes. They just have more tools, more resources, so on and so forth. More allies, maybe, depending on which mission you're on. You know, so they have different assets with which to use for that exact goal. But they always have the same goal. As for Veek's question about what makes a map, or what makes something a gimmick, it comes down to its use most of the time. So I like to quantify it based on, you know, is this something where I need to hotkey a Stargate and build a scout in order to cast a spell, or do I just push a button and cast a spell? If it's the former, it's a dumb, you know, EUD RPG map or something, and it really shouldn't be in there at all. That means it's not a fully fledged mechanic, by definition. Whereas if I just move, like it, I gave this example when talking to Matt Chaos in the Discord server the other day. In a context where I have the Vorvaling, you know, a unit that moves faster towards enemies in EUDs, or rather in an RPG map or something, you would actually have to design the unit to just behave in the most asinine fashion. You would have to follow all of the units with locations, and you'd have to constantly be moving borrowed units underneath them to slow them down, and only remove them if you could somehow detect that enemies were there. So like whatever your way to detect it, it actually ends up being, it's going to be half-baked, and it's not going to be a fully fledged mechanic. But iCore went in and actually did the code for the Vorvaling so that it would work properly and out of the box and wouldn't need triggers as a game behavior. So that's an easy way to differentiate between them. Because you just look at it and you say, oh, this is either, you know, built-in behavior or it isn't. So an ion cannon that has a triggered behavior to deal damage to something, that's a gimmick. The ion cannon actually shooting, because it has behaviors associated with it as a unit that involves it shooting, is a mechanic. Usually gimmicks are trying to be mechanics without actually having the author have to put in the legwork. That's something you'll find very frequently. Gimmicks are basically like, oh, this is a proof of concept. This is a tech demo. Without the tech part, of course. So that's an easy way to, at least as far as I'm concerned, it's easy to look at that and figure out what's happening based on just that conversation, I think. Yeah, neutral assets will be in most maps, I think. I just haven't placed them in most of the other ones. Stuff like, I came up with this concept a while ago. Like, previously in areas of the map, you would have stuff like, Zerg used to have this base here, and so they left behind some shit that is like a creep colony or something. And that'll just be like rescuable. You walk up and you get it, and it changes color and everything. But in the future, it'll probably be more like creep sources or something that are acting as neutral units that don't have an owner, but they do spread creep. And so players that aren't Zerg will probably want to destroy those. And players who... Why do you put melodrama in your music, idiot? Anyway, yeah, that's it. That'll be an example at some point. Stuff like that, neutral pylons that generate power for Protoss, proxy cannon without needing the pylon, stuff like that. Though it'll mostly be used for proxy production as opposed to cannons. Yeah, I've already made all that stuff. I have to remake most of them. Dynamo. Let's see if I can find the crashed carrier I used for the ramp. Here it is. So it would be like this. Oh, let me get a good example. There's no easy place for me to put this right now, I don't think. Oh. There's the ramp at Space Down anyway. So there you go. That's what I made a while ago. At some point, there's just a way to block a ramp. But at some point, I'm going to redo it and mostly fix the issues here, like the perspective issues are over here with regards to the... it's just like a splat over it. It doesn't remove any of the rocks or change anything that the ramp had. So it does look like it was just pasted over in a Photoshop layer, which is what it was, in essence. So I want it to look a little bit more natural. Oh yeah, Ultralisks, that's a good reason, or a good another example of a gimmick where you have stuff like Nidus canals that the AI have units spawn through and play a sound instead of Blizzard setting it up so that AI could actually use Nidus canals and have a base that creates units based on the amount of resources they have and do anything more intelligent than what they ended up doing. Like what you could do instead in that first Protoss mission, as an example, if you still wanted to keep it micro for whatever psychotic reason, but you also wanted them to use Niduses. You make AI use Niduses, which is of course its own fucking gallivant through assembly. But once you do that, you then make it so that the AI actually have bases that they set up over time. They start out with some, 1 or 2 bases around the place, and they reinforce with Niduses, and they try to build more Niduses, and they try to expand, and as a microplayer, you're able to actually move around and kill stuff. That's obviously not the approach I'm going to take when it comes to making it in Hydra, but that would be one way that you could actually make that mission actually engaging without changing it to macro, which is, of course, the easiest way to make it a competent mission. Anyway, gimmicks are bad because they fundamentally dethrone the importance of the player's expectations and the player's lessons that they have supposedly learned throughout playing your production. They change what the player is actually meant to be doing most of the time. So you'll oftentimes run into situations where a gimmick invalidates a lesson that you learned earlier in the campaign or the production. Half-Life is a really good example of this because stuff like when you're running around and there's like a strider that blows a hole in a wall, and that's the only time the strider ever blows a hole in the wall, and you never see it happen again, and you've never seen it before. That's a gimmick. And that gimmick is how you progress through the mission, and it's really bad because the player needs to know that information. The strider will blow a hole in the wall. That is important for them to progress. If they don't trigger the strider to blow a hole in the wall by moving in a certain direction, then they will never be able to progress. But they would never expect that the way out of their current predicament is by having a strider blow a hole in the wall, that having a unit exhibit a behavior it's never exhibited before and will never exhibit again is never a good idea. And that's basically what you have with shit like ion cannons that spawn projectiles that kill you, that set your unit's HP to 1% or whatever. Stuff like that. So that's like an example of just one reason why you should avoid gimmicks, is because the player's expectations are completely soured. They're immediately annihilated. And you basically create this environment for your development where you have to tailor your skills and your understanding of the game to individual sequences instead of the broader picture. So it removes consistency and it reduces the impact of learning how to be a good player at the game, which should be paramount. That should be king. That should be the most important thing, is that you encourage your players to be better at the game with your production. And yet most campaigns do the opposite. Most campaigns encourage you to cheese or do something really stupid, or they take away your ability to do anything intelligent by removing your tech tree or anything like that. So That is why gimmicks are bad, in so many words. Hey, awesome. Good job, Equa. And yeah, Dynamo, you're right about the Side Disruptor and Brood War explaining it well. It just has some obscure lore behavior that reduces the tech level of your hives in the first 2 missions. And makes it so you have to play a micro mission in the first map, and makes it so that you have to bring a psi emitter to hero units in the second map. And it's just dumb. And then the Side Disruptor just basically ceases to be important because you kill it in that mission, right? So it's like, great. By the way, that's really insane to me that you kill the Side Disruptor in the second mission of the Zerg campaign. They barely fucking defend it. They barely put up a fight at all. And that was like the centerpiece of an enormous amount of angst and effort that went into the whole Terran campaign. The penultimate Terran mission in Brood War is you trying to save the Side Disruptor. You do that, and then you just kill it 2 missions later. This is so, or 3 missions later. It's so anticlimactic. What's up, Grand Benja? How are you? Yeah, Dynamo, the biggest issue, I think, is... Well, the problem with the Side Disruptor is that it encompasses so much of your time as the commander in the UED that you think it has some other significance, that it's going to play an important role in the next chapter of this epic anime campaign that is Brood War. And then it just quietly dies with a fucking whimper. Well, the Side Disruptor shouldn't be just a giant facility either. But I don't really know what to change it to. Because Side Disruptors are now going to be a tech for the UED to just build. Although it'll be a little bit more complicated than quote-unquote just building. Just build it, forehead. But, yeah. Yeah, Patriot's Blood should probably be something else. Let's see what happens. Well, they can just deactivate it if it's an impediment. They certainly wouldn't just leave it out to dry. Oh, that's another thing, though, is that in the UED campaign itself, you will be playing alongside certain Zerg broods, or you'll have the option to. And if you do that, then it angers certain Terran alliances you may have made at that point. I might even make it so that it's possible for you to make a Protoss alliance as well, which may anger a different set of Terran allies. So there'll be a whole relationships thing. It'll be like a dating simulator. You'll be able to pick your waifu. Yeah, I think the Disruptor will be an installation inside. Because remember, for Patriot's Blood, I have to blend installation with ice anyways, and the tile set for Brood War Zerg 2 is ice. So I could just recycle the assets that I use there and make it so that the Psi Disruptor as an installation is present on the map, and you have to infiltrate it to destroy... I don't know, maybe you destroy some of the scientists behind the Psi Disrupting technology, or you destroy their plans for it or something. Something a bit more than just destroying a Psi Disruptor, since we'll establish by this point that even though this is like a significant amount of their military power is in the Psi Disruptor, you aren't destroying the only one in existence, and they can make more. So maybe this solves the part where they can make more. And so maybe they can't make any more, but they still have some in reserve elsewhere that you have to worry about as the Zerg player. Something like that might be what I do. It's so far off that it's not really that important right now, I don't think, but there's some stuff to consider. Oh, Grand Benja, you're pretending to make the lore deep again. I see what you've been doing. You're pranking me again. Fix that later. Yeah, well, it's going to be a much bloodier fight when it comes to the Brood War version of that, for sure. Yeah, well, it's a less intense version of the problem that you see in StarCraft 2, where everybody besides whoever you're controlling in the moment is an idiot. Making some more layout tweaks to this map. Well, they did try to make it so that it was one of those things where all of the characters had to, or factions had to band together in order to unite against the UED. But unfortunately, the actual like, I get what you're saying, Dynamo, but the actual execution that they had there was really bad because of the fact that in actuality they just fell over. And the scale never actually showed all of those factions fighting each other. They sort of tried with, like, Raynor showing up, and then Phoenix was there for a mission, and so on, but it fell apart in the actual execution. Like, what we're led to believe through briefing screens and shit is completely contradicted, as usual, by the actual game. Which is a pernicious issue in gaming in general, not just Starcraft, but one of the reasons that Brood War always felt so dumb is because they handled it very unintelligently. Yeah, I might keep this one anyway. Let's see what happens. I'm leaving room. One of the reasons why I'm erasing all these crevices is because I want to keep things consistent in the early levels, even though you can't actually access these crevices. I want them to seem like they are... they would be valuable mineral fields if you were to take them over and remake them or excavate them. Because they can be excavated by Protoss and later by Kelmorians and maybe some Zerg stuff in Brood War. But in vanilla, Protoss will be able to excavate them. And so I want to imply that that's possible in general with the way that I'm placing the doodads or these decals. And once the like, I don't know, that's basically like the short and long of it all. Yeah, he just attacks it with Marines. I don't think there's a nuke. Oh, maybe there is a nuke, actually. I just totally forgot about that entirely. I vaguely remember a nuke now. Where did he get a ghost? Where did he get nukes? Nobody knows. And in Hydra, they're like much easier to come by, so it doesn't. They're not meant to be as this like secretive thing that you can never get your hands on. You get them in like map 3 probably or something like that. You'll probably find them in Jacobs or be able to use them in Jacobs. And they'll be used against you in Desperate Alliance by the other Confederates. So the idea that you wouldn't have access to them is really silly. But in Blizzard's own canon, they made sure that ghosts were very scarce, right? So really makes you go, yeah, of course, Ikewear. I treat Hydra as open source entirely, ideas or otherwise. No, I don't stake any claims to it. I don't know if half of this shit is going to work out anyway. I think certain sub-factions of Zerg will have a different drone that will be able to burrow on top of the crevices to excavate them. But I haven't decided if I want to go that route yet. What do you mean data mining from RTS games? Oh, 41 billion. Although Icor has extracted a bunch of shit from Outlive recently and sorted through it, he's gonna... I assume there's gonna be some conversions that happen as a result of that. Unfortunately, Outlive has very small units. Right, yeah. I'll definitely be making those. The move set me back a little bit, and then this map took longer than expected to actually get done, but some point this weekend or early next week I'll be able to grab some stuff for that. I'll send you the goods when they're good and ready. Yeah, well, I'm not sure if it'll morph itself. I think they'll tunnel in and it'll take some time, and then after that the unit will unburrow and you'll be able to mine with them. But I'm not sure. It could be that they sort of morph into some other organism that tunnels them out. That could be it. Either way, it'll be interesting to see. I'm counting on AI to be able to use all these things, so that adds some complications, as you might imagine. Not enough for a player to be able to use things. AI's got to be intelligent. I'm really looking forward to the micro that you said that you put together with the like groups being moved and stuff. That honestly, it seems like that's going to be like a really, really nice feature. So I'm pumped to see that. So it looks like the crash that we were experiencing earlier with regards to the first Zerg map is actually related to guards. It's going to take some time to resolve. No idea, no real ETA on that or anything, but as unfortunate as that is. Psycho music. Yeah, it could be quarry behavior. I was also thinking it's probably going to be faction specific again, though. Like Kelmorian specific. But we'll see what I can come up with. It might be a more general behavior. All of this stuff might be more general. I don't know. I quite like making these rocky ground blends, even though that's kind of time consuming. I feel like it looks way better than just using default rocky ground. The way that the isometry gives it to you. Adds some nice organic irregularity to the shapes, I think. Yeah, now that I remember the old Basilisk crash we had. Yeah, I think Stasis Shell should be fine, though. Like, the shell... I think the reason why we strayed away from the shell spawned on top of units was mostly related to the... well, at least I recall feeling like it wasn't organic enough as an idea. Or, like... It was harder to communicate that that's what was happening. But I think we can fix that up anyway. Like, the issue is that if you select the unit, you select the shell by accident or something. I think it should be more like you select the unit, you see the shell meter, and it could be like a blue bar. Well, the shields are already blue. It could be like a teal bar, because teal is sort of the color of stasis. It's like a blue teal halfway between. So, something like that. I also think there should probably be some option to always draw the selection stuff. The,
Believe me, if I started murdering people, there'd be none of you left.
what was I gonna say before I got destroyed by a sound sample? I don't remember. No plans right now. I have some ideas. I want to... The problem is that, like, originally I had the idea that regenerating resources would be a specific kind. There would be resources that are temporary, like the Mercury resources, where they just deplete and they disappear. There would be resources that don't deplete but don't regenerate, and there would be regenerating minerals. That was my original take. Then we just made every mineral field regenerate, and I feel like that's way better for gameplay. I feel like it's a much better game, like an experience playing that. I like that way better. So now I don't want to change that. We might be able to use that for stasis, right? Display it on the command card. Alright, I think I'm just about done prettying this area up. Alright, I think I can dismiss this crash now. Okay. I can probably put something together for that then. So I gotta go make an appointment here in a couple minutes. I'm gonna kill the stream, but we made some pretty good progress. Once the guard crash is resolved, which whenever that will be, probably tomorrow, I guess, or maybe it'll take longer than that. But the Zerg map is good to go. The issue is the crash is definitely out of this world. I guess it will happen less frequently in when there's a player in place, because the player won't have guard requests. So I can release it with the understanding that you're probably going to get a crash if you play it single player, and you know, to avoid that, you can try to utterly eradicate your enemies faster than that. But I don't feel like releasing it right now. I don't think that would be good. So anyway, I've made my changes. I've done a lot of work on it. I feel pretty confident with the way that it came out. I definitely think it's a good starting point for now. And I think I will leave it at that for now. Pretty good. Pretty good stuff. Good stream. Productive. Yeah, we might need to change the interface. We'll figure that out a little bit later on. Yeah, extended button sets. I've already got a Zerg version. I'm going to have to make some Terran and Protoss ones as well. We'll see what I can come up with anyway. But yeah, thanks to iQuare. Thank you for all the work that you've been doing and all the work you have done. Thanks everybody else. Dynamo, Grandvenja, Veek, Ultralisks, Connor, everybody who came in and said hi. I think Rimtech said hi at some point too. Maybe not. He probably would have prepared to die to me or something. Those two Russian guys, thank you too. All right. I'm out of here.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. Bye.